Is it first possible to even heal from narcissistic abuse? And how do you actually do it? And also, do affirmations work to be able to bring you out of the place that you're currently stuck in inside of a toxic relationship, or just the mental mind stuff that's going on inside of trying to figure out how do I heal from the confusion, the chaos, and the uncertainty that you're dealing with? When you're inside a toxic relationship, you start to feel like the entire world is only around that one person, centered around him. You don't have the same thoughts or feelings or desires about you because you're not allowed to. It all has to be about him. What you're focused on has to be about him. And oftentimes this can leave you in a spot of depression, of guilt, of shame, of anxiety, of frustration, because nothing that you do matters and nothing that you do is able to even be accepted or heard from him because it's all about him. His emotions, his feelings, and everything gets focused on that. And as a result, you typically get to a place where you've lost yourself. You don't really know who you are. It feels like you're a shell of a person that looks back at yourself thinking, well, I know I could do better. I know I was better. I know I had more confidence, but I don't now. How do we actually build back the confidence? How do we actually build back you? That's part of what we want to talk about today inside this conversation of, do affirmations work? Now, I want to be able to preface it both ways. You can have someone who does affirmations and they're great and they're wonderful and they help. And you can have someone that does the same exact affirmations and they do nothing. Why is that? There could be a giant disconnect between the affirmations that you say and what you truly believe. Ultimately, everything that's happening in your life is based on a story that you're telling yourself. Now, this might be a story that you're telling yourself about you. This might be a story that you're telling yourself about what you think another person is thinking about you. But ultimately, we as human beings are made up of stories. Our own thought process and patterns of what's going on a day-to-day basis, what you're seeing, perceiving, and what's being transmuted to you every single day as you walk through life. You are viewing life inside of stories. This is why people love podcasts and movies and books, because it's telling a story. It's telling another version of reality of what is going on inside of that story. So when we break this down inside of a toxic relationship, you become addicted to different stories that might or might not be true. But one of the stories that might not be true is simply how he cares about you, or how he loves you or doesn't love you. So there's a piece where you're like, I want to believe the story that he loves me, but when I look at the facts and I look at the evidence, it's actually not true. So it's one of the hard things for people to be able to break down and be able to see a difference of, wait a second, there's something here that's not exactly real. This could be the story that you're telling yourself. So when we layer on top of the stories that you're already telling yourself, affirmations, they could or they couldn't work. And the reason why I say this is because if you have a story that's underlying you for the longest period of time, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy, sometimes just simply saying that you're good enough and that you're worthy is not going to fix the problem. Because what you have is an ingrained story, a story that goes deep inside of your psyche, deep inside of your soul, of this is who you've identified with. This is the lie that you believed for such a long period of time. So if we don't go in and actually help you change that, actually modify that, rewire the mindset so it doesn't think like that anymore, sometimes the affirmations that people put on top of their life just don't work. I don't mean to say that affirmations as a whole are a bad idea, or that they don't work long term, or they don't work, period. I'm just saying, if we have affirmations and we still have unhealed things underneath the surface, sometimes it will not fully take seat. And as a result, you won't actually find some of the healing because you're still telling yourself a lie underneath the affirmations. So you can tell yourself all these affirmations that are great and positive, and they might help you move. But if it doesn't reveal certain things that are underneath the surface that still need to be worked on, affirmations sometimes can seem like a great idea, but in practicality, they don't really move you a whole lot. So that's kind of the side note at the beginning of this, just to make sure we got that out of the way. Now, when we talk about affirmations, they're great. When we talk about affirmations, it's a positive thing to put into your life. However, I want to be able to phrase it and have you think about it in a certain frame. This is stuff that I've been learning about recently in my own life and recently inside of the coaching world, of how to be able to phrase these in a different way. Now, a lot of times affirmations are just putting positivity on you. Great, awesome, keep it up. Okay, the other piece is sometimes affirmations and goal setting starts to look at what you want or what you desire down the road, which is also great as well. The things that I want you to understand is sometimes people will set up goals, and sometimes people even set up affirmations that have a negative context. I will not be like this. I won't get into a toxic relationship again. I won't be naive again. Different things that are saying what they won't do, but they're not actually doing the affirmational part of saying what they will do or what will be different. So the reason why it's important to be able to understand this and bring this up is because who you are as a human being and who you are on a soul and a spirit level, there's differences in how your mind processes things versus how your soul or your spirit processes things. Inside of this, we find that a lot of times when people have a negative connotation inside the sentence, your soul will not hear the negative, but will only take the positive. So you might be telling yourself, I will never get in a toxic relationship again. And what your soul is hearing, I will get into a toxic relationship again. I won't be like this person. I will be like this person, because it's taking out the negative. So this is great for us inside of affirmation world because we need to bring in the positive affirmations. Now, when we're talking through affirmations, I want you to consider these are a declaration. These are something that you're proclaiming over you. This might mean that the affirmation that you're saying in the moment is not 100% true of you in this moment, but it is who you want to become and is who you desire to develop into being. Now, there's this piece where we could say, hey, I want this, and you continue to pursue it. Or we could just say, hey, this is who I am. And even though it's incongruent in the moment, what it's doing is it's trying to change your thought process. It's trying to change how you're showing up on a day-to-day basis. Now, consider for a moment, if I say, I am healthy, and considerate of what I put inside my body. Well, that is a different version of me that is going to consider, do I eat this piece of candy or not? Now, it's a silly example, but this aspect that if I take this future version of me that's more healthy than who I am now, and I bring that here and I say, I am this, I am healthy and making conscious choices of what I put in my body. If I make that decision of this is who I am now, it's going to have a different thought process of how I process the things around me. The same thing inside of your spirituality, the same thing inside of relationship, same thing inside of your money consciousness. It's trying to be able to bring that version of you that you're trying to unlock to the here and now by declaring, I am, whatever it might be. So inside of the affirmation world, we're trying to build specific, clearly defined statements that are actually telling a story of who you actually are. Now, you might be thinking, well, that seems silly because that's not who I am. Well, exactly. That's why you're doing affirmation statements. That's why you're actually working on this journey, because you're not who you actually want to be. And so in declaring it, it doesn't mean that, oh, I've got all my problems fixed. No, in declaring it, we're trying to be able to establish a new mantra, a new mindset inside of your mind, inside of the thought process. Why? Because otherwise, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to be like, oh, I'm so fat. Versus, no, I am shredded and sexy and I'm going to show up in a positive way. That is a whole different reframe on you looking yourself in the mirror. The illustration just from me. I came home, and after the week away with learning some of this stuff and having some of this stuff just be like opened up massively for me, one of the things I was sharing, and I was talking to my wife, and she mentioned, hey, that means that when you're in the bathroom and we're joking around and you say, oh, I'm so fat, you're like, you can't say that anymore. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Can't say that anymore. Because it's not something that's serving me. It's not something that's helping me move towards who I actually want to be. It's not unlocking that version of me. So in creating affirmation statements, I want you to consider a simple framework, which is just I am, and then add context to it. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that seem like? And start doing this in all aspects of your life. Because the more specific you can get about who you are, even if in the moment you're like, but this isn't me, but it's who you desire to be, bring that now and say, okay, the affirmation statement is I'm going to declare who I am and start making choices and decisions aligned with that new version of you. It might sound different. It might sound weird, but I'm trying to bring this to you as soon as I learn some of this stuff to try to be able to provide an opportunity and a help for you to be able to move forward in the healing process. Because we have to be able to heal the trauma. We have to be able to heal, and the healing journey is a big piece that we talk about. How do we break the trauma bond? How do we work through the cognitive dissonance, the rumination? How do we eradicate the triggers? All of these things. But then we also have to have something that's pulling you, that's helping you move towards the next version of you, helping you unlock you one step at a time. And we're going to do that inside of goal setting. We're going to do that inside of affirmations. But the affirmations are going to be focused on who you are. not who you're going to be. We're bringing that to the present. We're saying, this is who I am. So what choices would I make different? Instead of just thinking this future version of me, how would this person show up different? Let's bring them to the present here and be like, okay, how would I show up different now? Because this is who I am. Once we start to shift this and change this, more things become unlocked inside of your journey and inside of your healing here. If I can help you inside of this is part of what we coach, this is part of what we do inside of Raw Motivation to help you move from being a victim to a person that's a survivor to a person that's a thriver. Growing and developing who you are on a day-to-day basis. If I can help you today, if you'd like to reach out, work with me, or talk to me, you can go to rawmotivations.com, click on the one-on-ones, watch a video there because I have an opportunity for you to move forward inside this healing process. If this resonates with you, then go ahead and see about doing that today. rawmotivations.com. If you haven't already, like, share, rate, and review. Would love to have you share this with just one more person to help them inside of their healing journey as well.